I have Jay Benoit. He is the founder of Exponent Edge. Thanks, Jay, for taking the time to hop on. Before we dive into your story, and I also want to ask about some certain products and just have a general discussion about running the business as well. Outside of Exponent Edge, can you just give us a little summary or give us some information about what you'd like people to know? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a home gym owner. I've owned a home gym for over 20 years. Like I'm in a position where I understand, people that are trying to accomplish fitness goals at home, whether it's with a family life. I have three young boys as well, trying to balance, time, being in shape, being fit for your family, for yourself, like how that all works. I started a home gym back in my early 20s, mostly out of a necessity. I have an older son when I was younger, so being able to get to the gym was a little more difficult from a time perspective. So I started a home gym in my detached garage. I've had three other home gyms since then in different spaces, like a full-fledged 400 square foot basement to a third stall garage, and now I'm in my 180 square foot basement today. I kind of have a good feeling for what people are looking for when they're building a home gym, especially for those that are doing it in a confined space, and what you need to be able to have versatile equipment, get everything that you want into a small area. So I live the life, as do you, that many other folks that are out there trying to find time to get in their 30, 45, 1 hour workouts without having to add 30, 40 minutes of drive time, getting gas, stuff like that. So I have a family. I have a career currently outside of just Exponent Edge. So I'm doing my regular job and then growing this business at the same time. So there's definitely some pluses and minuses to doing both of those things. And I've worked out for my entire life since I was 12 years old. I'd say I'm traditionally more of a bodybuilder at heart, but I do some powerlifting. I used to do some powerlifting competitions when I was in my mostly of my 20s, but I still do the top three lifts today. Definitely not as strong as I used to be, but I don't really care about that as much as I used to in the past. I care more about, muscular size, being fit, being able to do stuff with my family, but still getting killer workouts. So that's like what I am outside of just Exponent Edge. And, hopefully some people can relate to where I am and what I'm trying to do and accomplish outside of, just building a business.
Can you tell me about that first home gym? What did that look like? And maybe just like a quick, like, you mentioned three or four home
Yeah.
gyms, but can you tell me about what that first one looked like and maybe how it evolved over time?
Yeah, I can certainly do that. So I'm originally from Central New York, a little town called Holland. It is a very small town. It was rural. I owned a home that I actually had a separate little barn and then a detached garage. I had detached garage, all my people out there that had garages. I didn't even have my car in it. It was my gym, right? So the nice thing is I had a home gym. I could work out at home, usually about 4 or 5 times a week. And I had pretty standard equipment, like an Olympic bench, nothing like you really see with home gym equipment today. But I had the basics. And at the time, I don't even know, to be honest with you, people ask all the time, like, where did I get it from? And 20 years ago, I don't, maybe like a Play It Again Sports garage sale type things. I mean, stuff wasn't available like it is today. And trying to figure out how I got all that stuff back then, maybe some Craigslist stuff back in the early 2000s. But during that space, I had a bench, I had a squat rack, I had metal plates and some dumbbells and did all the work that I could in that detached garage. It was great to have it, but I was in Central New York. So walking from my house to the detached garage in winters that January and February are in the single digits for average temperatures, there were some challenges with that too, starting off with the sweatshirts and sweatpants and then getting in through the workout, eventually getting back into shorts and t-shirts like I like to work out in. So that's really how it started. And then after that home, I moved to a new home where I had a basement that was about 400 square feet, and I had so much equipment in that basement: treadmills, ellipticals, multiple benches, preacher curl benches, multiple sets of adjustable dumbbells, some loadable dumbbells, multiple curl bars, and a bunch of other equipment during that time. and that was great and all. And then I moved from Central New York to Charlotte. That my first gym down here was in a third stall garage. It was about 25 by about 15. Still a pretty darn good space. I had multiple racks like I have in here, and every time I had a gym in each one of these scenarios, the amount of footprint I had available for equipment was less, and I had to find ways to reduce what I owned, yet still be able to do everything that I wanted to do in my original, large garage and large basement. Until today, you see me, I'm in 180 square feet in my basement here, and I can still do just as much, if not more, than I used to be able to do from a combination of just upgrading equipment and making my own.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So like, has that been your like number one hobby over the past 20 years, would you say?
Absolutely. So outside of family and career,
Right.
the next thing would definitely be, fitness. And it's not only lifting weights. Like I like running. I've done marathons, half marathons. There's a big race where I'm from in Utica called the Boilermaker. I did that like 20 times. So I was lifting weights. I was running year round. I participated in stuff like that. I did some triathlons, never the Ironman. I never got to that stage, but I like to do anything and everything, to pickleball, basketball, football, like you name it. Love it all. So everything I can do from a fitness perspective, it's all fun. And that's where I spend my time outside of my career and my family. And even my family participates in all that stuff too. So
Awesome. All right. So Exponent Edge, if somebody just walks up to you from on the street and they're like,
yeah.
what is this? What's your response?
So I would say Exponent Edge, how you see me today, is a company that is creating innovative home gym products to help you be able to accomplish your goals in a limited amount of home gym space. So most of the stuff that I make today is versatile equipment. It's not the bread and butter for racks and bumper plates and those types of things, which eventually I'll be doing those things. But I started with more unique equipment to help me do some exercises that I couldn't do at home, like my wall mounted and rack mounted glute ham developer. I was trying to create something to perform Nordic curls at home and some other exercises with them that I couldn't do many years ago without getting like a full GHD or something like that. So it was really out of a necessity. I started to create some equipment. And then from there, continue to build other innovative products like the Infinity Arm, my Infinity Bench that just came out. I've always trained calves, so now you saw the Flex Wedge and the calf cups at Home Gym Con. So it's creating innovative stuff to help you perform exercise that you like. It's some of them are very difficult to do them at home versus going to the gyms. Like trying to train calves at home without a Smith machine is a very difficult thing, at least effectively, right? You can do calf races standing on the ground. You can get it done, but is that really like building your calves as much as you want to be for those people who care about building their calves? The answer to that is no. So it's still trying to find ways to make it so you can complete everything you want at your commercial gym at home to be a well-rounded athlete or just enthusiast.
For that first product, so you mentioned it was like 6 years ago. Can you explain what that was, and then like how you came across the problem, what made you ultimately like go for it? And like,
Yeah.
you mentioned you were a home gym owner for a long time before. Like, was that something you always wanted to do, or was it kind of just in the moment, like, I'm just going to go for it?
Yeah. So, as far as creating home gym equipment, that was nothing I ever really expected to be doing. Like I told you before, I was a bodybuilder. I've been lifting since I was 12 years old. I've worked out 5 days a week at a minimum. Ever since I was 12, I've never had more than like a week off since then. So really, I was in my third stall garage, and when I was performing Nora curls, I was doing a setup with a barbell behind a rack with 45-pound plates on them. And I would put like a squat pad onto the bar and put my heels under the squat pad and would fall forward to do my Nordic curls, right? So it worked to a degree, but I was just thinking there's got to be a better way to do it than this without spending $4 on a traditional GHD. When it took up too much space, it was too costly. And so I started to create a way to mount something to the wall so I could perform Nordic curls, so I could still, have all that weight distribution coming down to the floor to perform Nordic curls in a proper manner. Like it originally, the first design looked like I would call more of like a mini pull-up bar with a pad on it. That was the first version. And then, each time I tried to make it better to what you see today, it's covered. I'm gonna go move a bench back here real quick so you can kind of see it.
Yeah.
It's a device on the wall right there that's red. I know it's tough to see because it's back pretty far. And then off of that, I created my rack mounted version. And so now I do a lot of Nordic curls off my rack. So I built it out of necessity, and being here in Charlotte, North Carolina, there's no lack of welders because of NASCAR. And there's plenty of auto parts manufacturers that can do a lot more than just auto parts. So I went to a welder, got some help from them, started to create some product for my wall mounted boot ham developer. And then I actually patented that product. And the first step I took as far as building a business was really just looking for licensing agreements and getting someone to take it on, get a royalty. I didn't really want to start my own business because I was doing well in my own career. But after about, I'd say between 2 and 3 years, I got to the 11th hour in a couple of cases, but never came to fruition, and just kind of ended up realizing that if this is going to go to market, I've got to do it on my own. So I started to do that on my own. And, that wall mounted turned into a rack mounted. And then after that, I started to work on some other products for storage needs. So I was trying to do like a dumbbell holder. I did my kettlebell holder, and then I moved on to like the infinity arm just to be able to do multiple exercises. And really, the infinity arm is an improvement on some products that were already out there for chest and back support, but I wanted more options and versatility. So worked on that with my engineer. So like it's kind of expanded over time to where now I'm running a full business of exercise equipment. I constantly am thinking of new ideas to come to market with. They do take a long time. So like I'm a one-man shop with my engineer, so I can't move as swiftly as some other companies are able to move. But still coming up with new ideas. And now you see me today where I've got about 10 products I'm selling. I've got more coming out, more creative ideas that are on the horizon. And like I'm enjoying a lot of starting this business and continuing to grow. So.
Cool. Going back to that first product, you mentioned it was a 3-year time frame, kind of a deal. What would you do differently if you had to do it again? And then also just more specifically, how would you cut that time frame down to a smaller amount?
Well, I think as far as coming up with the final prototype of the device, I would say that was probably closer to a 6-month process. It wasn't really all that difficult to go from prototype to prototype to prototype because I was working with an auto parts manufacturer locally. It was actually one of Dale Earnhardt's companies. It's Earnhardt Technologies Group. So they were local. They were only about 15 minutes from me. The thing that took so long was really spending 2 years trying to get a licensing agreement. So that's what took so long. And the fact that I didn't want to, run my own business, that's what took a long time. And I think at the time in the industry, working with people like myself with ideas for new equipment wasn't as acceptable as it is today. Because I'm sure you've talked to a lot of people at Home Gym Con that are now coming up with product ideas, and they're working with other companies to get them to come to life, where 6-7 years ago companies were very hesitant to do that. I don't know the full reasons why, but they were definitely hesitant to do that. And now everyone's coming up with gym product ideas, and companies are like, oh yes, we love that, let's work with it. So there's different avenues for you to get your product ideas out there. You don't necessarily have to run your own business anymore like I am. You can definitely find avenues to work with other companies. So it's definitely gotten easier. And that's probably just because of the growth that the home gym community has actually seen over the years. So the time frame for me was more just about trying to get to a licensing agreement with companies than it was to get a final product to the door. So I would say if I was to go back and change anything, it would have been don't waste my time getting a license agreement and start the business on my own. But that would be at that time. I think today, if you have a good idea and you don't want to start your own business, I think it's certainly doable in a much reduced time frame than what I was working with. I mean, I met several people at Home Gym Con that had their own ideas and they're working with other companies on their product, and they exist today. So
what did you just reach out to everybody, and then what were typical responses, and did you actually get like any good face-to-face meetings that you thought might go somewhere?
yeah, so I reached out to, I wouldn't say anybody and everybody, but there was 4 or 5 groups that I reached out to. Some never got back to me. Some got back to me to decline. And I was really, really close with one group and did get FaceTime with them with the product, brought it down with them, and they were able to see it, feel it. And I honestly think that we were extremely close to getting a deal done, but it ultimately it didn't come through. I just think that, sometimes what you have to realize is these other companies have priorities, and what you're creating may not always be on their priority list. And for good or bad reasons. Like there's people that create stuff all the time that turn into massive products, and there are certainly companies that end up missing out. But folks like us can obviously have an idea that goes really well and sells great and be a great business. Like I hear all the time. There's a good example I heard here. It is not exercise equipment related. It was called ghost paper. It's think of it as like poster board, but it has lines on it that you can't see when you're far away, but when you're really up close, you can see them to keep straight lines. Think about people that use it for school. They originally went to 3M, massive company, right? Huge on their idea. And they're like, yeah, we're interested in it. And it kept getting pushed off. I only know this because the creators down here in Charlotte. And then they finally went to a much smaller company, and the smaller company latched on immediately, and it's a $300 million a year selling product. So I don't know many companies out there that wouldn't want a product that sells $300 million worth of revenue a year, but that's an example. I know it's not this industry, but it's just to give someone a story to let you know, like, if you're trying to go to the big companies and you're having a hard time, that doesn't mean you don't have a good idea. Maybe you're just talking to the wrong group. Maybe talk to another company that could be a little bit smaller. Maybe it might take them a little bit longer to get your product out there. It might not. They might be able to be swift as well. But reach out to some other groups, and maybe they'll be able to do something for you. Like I talked to somebody at Home Gym Con that I think is feeling some of the same pain, and told them just hold the fire to 1 or 2 manufacturers. Maybe you should talk to somebody else. So yeah, not sure how much that means to everybody on listening to this, but that's some things I could tell you over time that I've learned. And like if you think you've got a good idea, pursue it.
No, that's really interesting. How important, you mentioned you went for a patent. How important was that in the whole grand scheme of things?
There are some companies that will not work with you at all unless you own a patent. Some will patent with you or for you, depending upon the idea. But I think anytime you own intellectual property, that's certainly going to help your case. Okay, because you are now the owner of that. Now, the side to that is completely separate from wanting to work with another company. The reason why you would want to consider patenting is really to protect your idea. There's no question that we understand our industry. There's certainly copycat stuff that goes on in our space. I don't think there's ever any way to completely reduce that. But if you own intellectual property on your piece of equipment or design, that certainly provides you additional protection from other people copying your idea. Now, the issue with it is getting patents can be very expensive and it takes time. So you see a lot of things out there with someone having a product that's patent pending. That really just means that they filed a patent, and the process of getting approval can be 2 years. So, and if I were to go, if you were to all of a sudden create some piece of equipment and you said patent pending, that patent pending process, at least for myself, I can't access that. So if I were to try to look up, oh, what's Jake's piece of equipment, like what is his patent? Maybe I'm trying to make sure I don't infringe on it, right? I won't be able to find it. So like you won't even know that that patent pending can exist. So if someone's saying I can't find it, that means you don't have it. It just means you don't have your final approval. Like so you don't know, am I going to get approved, not approved during usually a 1.5 to 2 year process. I think there's ways you can speed that up depending upon money that you're willing to pay and some other different aspects to it. But patent is really there, I think, in most cases to protect yourself. So if you have something that's novel, unique, that you don't bring it to a home gym con and someone sees it and then decides to copy it or very close. And there's two different types of patents. There's like a design patent, which really is a patent that's protecting like how your product looks, where right. So that's really so no one can make it look the exact same, but it's not really protecting how the piece of equipment is used. So if you have a utility patent, that's really protecting how the product functions. And that type of patent lasts a lot longer. And it's a lot harder to get around that patent because it's really showing how does something function and can be used, right? So for example, my calf cups are a filed patent that's provisional on utility. So it's going to be very difficult for someone to make something that's very similar because of that. Now, if I had a design patent, it's really like more of a look that you're protecting where you can make changes to something usually fairly easy from a design or how the product looks. So if you don't have utility, it's a lot easier for people to make a similar type of product. So, but either way, protecting yourself is a good idea. If anyone's out there listening who has their own idea and you're trying to share stuff on Instagram or social, I would tell you be very hesitant. If you're trying to work with another company or bring your product to life, sharing that socially with no protection is probably a bad idea. Because someone's going to get their eyes on it and say that's a great idea. And from a patent perspective, it's whoever files first. It doesn't matter if you 2 years ago, like, oh yeah, I made that. I was using it in my home gym, blah, 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 blah. Like I own that. You don't. Whoever files that patent first is the one that owns the rights to that property. So that's why you want to be careful if you're sharing something. And if you are going to share with someone, like if Jake, you had an idea, you wanted to come to me and you wanted to make sure you're protected, let's say you don't have a patent yet, then you would want to sign like an NDA where I would sign a document saying that I would not disclose this with anybody else. And that's pretty common practice in the industry. So it wouldn't really be a surprise to anybody if you ask someone to sign an NDA. Mm-hmm. If they're not willing to sign one, I would be hesitant to work with them. And then you can let the person you're working with like come to me and be like, I'd be like, oh, Jake, that's a great idea. I'd love to work with you. Let's go to the next stage. Or if it's a case like, hey, like that's a great idea, but it doesn't really fit in with what I'm trying to build. It allows you the flexibility to be protected and go reach out to other people. So
got it. I think that's good advice. Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. So, I mean, I guess it kind of depends on the situation, but that NDA advice is good. What about products? Do you have any like products you thought were going to do better? Maybe even some product failure stories. I'm sure not all of your products have come to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, I have products today that I'm not selling. It's not. So I would say, I think actually one of them I shared with you, which was a adjustable dumbbell holder. I use it in my home gym. It's not necessarily a product I think would fail because I haven't tried to sell it yet. It's really more about like prioritizing what you want to bring to market. So as an individual, I've got my list of stuff that I want to work on, and I'm constantly assessing it and saying, okay, what do I think is going to be the next product that could be a good seller? And you move things up and down the list, stuff like that. So that's something I just haven't brought to market. I think that there is some space for it. Now, it wouldn't be anything that would be a top selling product, and that's why it's kind of sat there for a while. And it will continue to sit until it would be the next one on the priority list. As far as stuff that I thought would have sold better, I would say the product that was probably the slowest to move, it did sell is the wall mounted glute ham developer. And I think that's really just around the fact that one, you have the rack, I have the rack mount option. You can buy other products that do Nordic curls that are less expensive, but mine can handle 600-700 pounds of force coming from the wall, versus some other products that won't be able to do that. But it's really about, I think some individuals are really hesitant to drill holes in their wall.
Yeah.
So whether from it's a confidence standpoint on whether or not it can hold you, the answer for me on that product and probably a lot of other products that are able to be mounted to your wall, they are tested, and you can likely, vast majority of cases, depend on the fact that they're going to hold you. Because if for mathematical reasons, a single stud in your home is built to be able to withstand about 1,000 pounds. So if you're drilling into one stud, it should be able to withstand 1,000 pounds of force. So now if you're going into two studs, it's even more than that. So that particular product is into two studs. No one's going to have 2,000 pounds of force pulling on it. So you'd be safe. But it's more like, do I want to install something on my wall when I have other options where I don't have to do that? So that's where I think that product is. I wouldn't call it a failure because it does sell. It's just a matter of not as much as I thought that it would have sold, because that was the very first product I came up with. And it takes up no space, and I can do a lot more than just Nordic curls on it. But it's one of those ones where I would have thought it would sell faster and sell more of them. So that, I mean, again, I'm not calling it a failure, but it's one of those things where it's definitely a product I thought would sell more. And right now it's out of stock because other stuff takes priority, but I am getting questions on it as of late. So maybe it's just a matter of getting the product out there more from a brand awareness standpoint.
Got it. What about on the other side of things? So any products that did better than you thought they would?
So my landmine jack sells like mad, dude. And I think it's a combination of it's an inexpensive piece of equipment, and its function is, getting your barbell off the floor to load plates on and off very quickly for doing landmine exercises. There's different types of jacks out there to raise up your bar. A lot of them, any type of jack, it's not as sturdy. Like my landmine jack can withhold a minimal of 500 pounds, and you can drop the weight on it and it's not going to go anywhere. It balances just fine. So I think it's one of those ones where I knew it was good, but I'm calling it like a hero product because it sells so well. And again, it's a combination of it has a really good purpose to it, and it looks nice, and it's inexpensive. I hear it all the time on like ads, and someone says I can go buy a car jack. You can go buy a car jack, but it looks like shit. So like you know how like home gyms are not what they used to be. So home gyms used to be, I have a priority I need to work out. I need a space to do it in. It doesn't matter what it looks like. I can get my job done. Dude, the home gym space is not like that anymore. The home gym space is now a hobby. People have themed home gyms. Everything can match the color that you want, and every piece of equipment in it can look good. So that's why somebody might be willing to spend a little bit more than going to buy some car jack that looks like it's totally out of place in a home gym and spend a couple more bucks on, say, the landmine jack. So, because it looks nice, right? It's got the logo on it.
Yeah.
It's clean, right? And don't get me wrong, there's areas for us to improve it, which I think we're going to do someday. But I think that's one of those things where it surprised me a little bit that it sells so fast. Like I'm constantly fulfilling and making orders on that landmine jack. So it's a great thing, right? So that's the one I would say is a little bit of a surprise.
Okay. Yeah. It's a nice product. You've mentioned you're like a one-man shop. You've been doing this for a while. You're sounds like you're pretty much bootstrapping it. I'm looking for kind of a behind the scenes answer. Like with that, like what's the most common complaint you receive? And then how do you usually respond to that?
You mean complaint from like a product perspective?
Just complaint as far as like, just as far as like, I think about like pre-orders and like, just like you have to like improve your products over time for like 2.0 versions, anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So one, I would absolutely say that pre-orders aren't always the most fun. And I think the difficulty in the pre-order is a lot around things that are outside of our control. So if anyone thinks that, like, listen, I don't own a 500,000 square, 600, I think it's 600,000 square foot manufacturing facility like Rogue, right? I don't own that. That's not me. I'm not doing the manufacturing. I'm doing drawings. I'm creating ideas. I'm prototyping. And then once I go beyond prototyping, it's mass production by another facility outside of myself. I am I am kind of limited to and dependent upon another company's manufacturing turnaround time. I'm also limited to the product shipping my way. And there are often uncontrollables in those situations. Real simple example would be when that cargo ship hit Baltimore, there was communication across shipment companies that there was going to be some delay on some shipments coming just because of rerouting of ships going, those ships that were going to Baltimore are now going to a different port, causing more congestion. Like those are the types of things that are completely out of our control. We can do nothing about it. And now we're communicating, oh, by the way, we have another 2 week delay on a product getting to my warehouse because of that situation. Like if your manufacturer says 35 days to manufacture ends up taking 40, and then let's say shipment takes a certain number of days and it's 5 more days, like next thing you know, that's another 2 weeks on a delay of something getting to you, right? And that's a direct effect on our customer and our consumer. And I think the most important thing that you can do, one is communicate. So I typically in these pre-order situations and sending communication about every 2 or 3 weeks at most, or anytime there's a status update, I notify all of my customers. But that's something that bothers me on my end is just the turnaround time frame on pre-orders is trying to get stuff and not only that be accurate with the time frame, but I'm telling my customer that they can expect to be getting something shipped their way. So that's difficult. Sometimes it's on point within a couple of days, and then sometimes, like I mentioned, there's delays that take place. It's like, oh, okay, well, sorry, it's actually going to be 3 weeks later now because of all of these things that kind of took place. So from me individually, that's my biggest complaint from those who provide service to me, right? And it's the causes the most frustration with customers is time frame on pre-orders. Hey, listen, I'm just like them. I pre-ordered gym equipment myself. I pre-ordered the Gugner dumblers, and that was like an 8 month delay. And like, luckily for me, I was trying to build my own business at the same time, so I totally understood. Right? I'm like, dude, what am I going to do about it? Like they can't do anything about it. Like they're dependent on someone making this stuff for them. It's out of their hands. So at least I understood. But for an average consumer, it's really hard to understand that those time frames because they're not running their own business. They don't understand the complications that take place. Everyone's got like, Amazon shipping time frames in the back of their head now that, they've caused pain and frustration. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're doing a great thing, Amazon for 2 day shipping, but none of us can do that. At least not from an individual perspective. So it's like those are the types of things that can make our job sometimes difficult with our customers. If you can communicate as much as you possibly can, and just be understand sometimes with some of your customers that may just be a little bit frustrated. Those are the types of things I would say that I would communicate could be tougher on our side. So I know you probably wanted a little more than just that as far as what issues or frustrations come from like shipping or manufacturing time frames and stuff like that. But that's the biggest complaint on my side that kind of goes both ways, both for the customer and for me.
Oh, that's kind of why I led into the question with, I thought pre-orders would be the top thing. So
Yeah.
I was just curious.
But that's a work in progress. So what I would say is it's getting better. So I'm getting into a spot where hopefully I'll eventually be at a spot where I don't really run into a case where I have things on back order and don't have to pre-order them anymore. Like the Infinity Arm's been out for a while. And so I'm on my fourth shipment of them. And I've only had probably 10 of my 1 inch Infinity Arms in stock at one point in time. And those sold out in a matter of a couple of days. So it's like trying to get to that point where I'm not in a spot where I have to do pre-orders anymore. The nice thing for the pre-orders is you're getting a discounted price. Like I leave a pre-order price on there until they're in stock. So once they're in stock, then the price is going to go up because you want people to continue to buy, even though it's not readily available that day, right? So that's the incentive, is you're getting a price reduction. But I'm getting to the point where I should be in a position in the next couple of months where I shouldn't run into a back order situation or pre-order situation on that product, right? And then I think that's probably all I got on that specific thing. Like, I'm doing pre-orders on the bench right now, and that's expected to be shipping out to people in July, and that should be a pretty accurate time frame for the bench to be available, as I just had communication last week on how it's all coming along. But like, I'm doing my best to do the best estimate I can on the pre-order. And some people are hesitant to do pre-orders. I've had plenty of communication from customers that say, well, I'll wait till they're in stock. What I would say is, for people on my Infinity arm, don't wait, because that thing just doesn't stay in stock.
Mhm.
Like, I can't keep that thing in stock right now. So like, if you're thinking about that with mine or someone else's product, and you're getting a good deal on the pre-order, and you're okay waiting a little bit, I would recommend doing it, because a lot of products you're going to be waiting for a while as people try to build up to the point where they can always have them in stock.
Yeah, makes sense. And speaking of the bench, I have some more specific product questions I want to ask you. So,
Sure.
Infinity bench. So
Yeah.
first of all, how's it different? Who is it designed for? And then, like, how did you think of this?
So I think many of those questions are kind of related to each other.
Yeah.
Like I told you before, I'm a bodybuilder at heart. I want to be able to perform every single possible exercise I can, for whether that's exercise variety, whether it's to use every different part of my muscle group that I possibly can. And that really kind of came to the creation of the Infinity bench. At home, I was doing, so any military press I would do would be standing overhead. Okay. Using a standard incline bench, whether that's all the way to, like, I don't know, most benches are maybe around 87 degrees in that top position, or even as far down as about 84 degrees. It's really difficult to perform a good seated barbell military press, even dumbbells, using a standard incline bench. And why is that? That is because my upper back. So you can see right now, I'm actually sitting in the bench right now as we speak. So I can turn this to the side a little bit. And I've done some videos online as well. So if I'm in a position here and I put this bench into a rack, right, in order to perform the military press appropriately, my upper body needs to be able to bend backwards to get back a little bit, and then also be able to tilt my chin back. If you notice, if you go to a commercial gym and you're doing a military press on a military press machine, you ever notice that the back support only goes up halfway up your back?
Yeah.
It's because it allows you to get your upper body backwards. So when you're bringing the bar down, you can get it down to your upper chest and not scrape your nose or your chin or your entire face, because there's no way to do it. And two, if you're doing it on a rack with a standard incline bench, it is very difficult to position it to be able to get the bar out and put it back on with a standard incline bench. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to be able to do seated military press at home. So now all I do is take this top portion with a pin, take it out, and put it here, just using this pin. And now it's in a position where I can easily get my upper body back and head tilted back to perform an optimal military press coming in front of my face. So that relates not just to military press, but any overhead work. So any overhead work that you want to do, you can't do with a standard incline bench, because if you're doing it overhead, whether it's a barbell or a dumbbell, you're hitting the top of your bench. So now you're in a spot where I can do overhead tricep work. I can do any other overhead work that I want to do without hitting the top of the bench. So the main reason I originally started it was military press and overhead tricep work. When I had the engineer over, and he's like, that's a great idea. We can certainly do it. We can make it be functional. We can make it handle 750 pounds with no issue. But we had already had the Infinity arm. He's like, why not make it also function as a chest and back support at the same time? So I wasn't even thinking all of that at that moment in time, but my engineer was. And so now we made it so that this can function at 90 degrees. It can also function down in the position. So if you're looking to perform, like, say, a bent over raise for your posterior delts, you can do it at multiple different angles on this bench, and it functions as chest and back support. Like I mentioned, it's like all those things kind of went together. It was for me being able to perform exercises that I wasn't able to perform at home properly. Now I can with this bench, right? So, but a lot of people that have a home gym today, they already own a bench. So almost all of them do. But now you have to kind of evaluate, like, do I want something else that has more versatility? Like I've upgraded before I ever had this bench. I upgraded the bench I use at home 3 times. So that's not uncommon for all of us in the home gym space to be like, okay, I started with this bench. Now I'm a 300-pound bencher. It just doesn't fit my needs anymore. It's not as sturdy as I want it to be. So you're upgrading, you're making changes to what you own because you're seeing new stuff available. And the nice thing is the home gym marketplace on Facebook, et cetera. There's plenty of people looking to start their home gyms that will get that off their hands. And you still can get a pretty good penny for what you paid for. Like if you bought something for $300, you could probably still get at least 150 for it.
For sure.
If it's bumper plates or something like that, you're probably only taking a slight reduction off of what you bought them for because those things are really costly per pound now. I know we got a little bit off topic on that, but it really relates to kind of an upgrading equipment in your home gym. And so like I don't use anything other than this bench. And this is my second prototype. The first prototype I got in there was a different cloth. It was good, but not quite as good as the cloth that I'm using here. And then we made some slight modifications to where we have a pin on the bottom that locks the bench into place so that we can stand it straight up. And I'm not sure if anyone saw it, but it's also got this plastic backrest on the back so that way it stands up really well. So those are slight modifications. And then even off this prototype, based on feedback at Home Gym Con and from other people using the product, we made some other changes. Like this pin, this is an 11-millimeter pin. It's now 15 millimeters, so it can handle a minimum of 750 pounds. Even though anyone using this, and that's just for the chest and back support part, right? When we were saying 500 before, I was like, 500 pounds. Like, dude, that was more than enough for anybody and everybody. But now 750, like you could stand on it and squat with a couple hundred pounds and you could squat on the chest support. We put a cage. A cage is going up over the full portion down here at the bottom. And then we made the base in the back a little bit longer for some additional stability. So we made those changes based on feedback. And I think it's important. Dude, Home Gym Con was amazing. And I think one of the best parts about it, outside of just the networking and connection piece, is the feedback that we all get from the home gym community. Because these people are not even just enthusiasts, they are diehards. And it's great to get the feedback from those people on your products to know, like, are you on the right track? Is there something that you're not thinking of that you should be? So that's great. I don't know if you have any other questions about the Infinity bench, but some of that feedback I got while we were there. So I think it's important for all of us to listen to our customers as well. So
no, that's awesome. I obviously love hearing that. Well, no, that was a great run through. What about the Infinity arm? To me, is also very impressive. Can you tell me? So, is that the best rack mounted adjustable arm on the market?
So I have bias because this is my own product, but I personally think it's the absolute best one on the marketplace, and it's for a couple of reasons. The main reason is the versatility on being able to attach it to your rack. And I don't think I hear this enough from people on why they like it so much, but on the bracket, you can attach it to 2-inch, 1-inch, and 6-inch space holes on a rack, both front and side. So that's something I don't feel I hear a lot about. I think it's because I think people kind of expect it to fit their rack no matter what. So whether you have 1-inch spacing, 2-inch spacing, or 6-inch spacing, that bracket will attach to your rack. It comes in 5/8 and 1-inch options. And then on the bracket itself, I unfortunately do not have one in my gym right now because my marketing team has it. So I don't even get to use my Infinity arm right now because I don't even have it in my gym, but I should have one in a couple of weeks next week when my shipment comes in. So anybody watching who's waiting on an Infinity arm, the 5/8 should be in at the end of next week. But on the bracket itself, there are 3 positions that you can pivot your Infinity arm from. So there's a middle hole, which I use the most, and then there's a top hole and a bottom hole. That's just for the pivot position of your arm. Next up is actually the position to move your Infinity arm up and down. And that is in the middle position, you have a full half moon of 8 positions. And then if you're in the top pivot point, you have 6 positions on another, call it mini half moon. And it's the exact same on the bottom position. There's another, call it mini half moon with 6 positions. So you can use all 3 of those positions. The arm is also reversible. So you can mount it 2 different ways in all of those positions. And then on top of that, you have 18 positions for the support pad. Not all 18 can be used in every position. It's a minimal of 16 in every position. And then it can store up or down. So when I say versatility, if you want to do, I was talking to some people at Home Gym Con about this. Like if you wanted to do an incline dumbbell press where you can modify the angle on your incline dumbbell press by 5 degrees over multiple different sets, you can do it on the Infinity Arm. And I do a lot of that because, like I said, bodybuilding, I want to exhaust and work every single part of my muscle group. I'm not worried about how much I can max bench press. I want to exhaust every muscle fiber in my body to get the best chest development I can. So now, instead of on a bench, not to knock any incline benches or anything like that, because they're all great, but you're talking typically 10, 15 degree increments on most benches. And on the Infinity Arm, you can literally get about 4 to 5 degree modifications on dumbbell presses. And I do that all the time. And same thing with like an isolation curl. I can get that 5 degrees changed. I can start here, 5 degrees, 5 degrees, 5 degrees. And I know I'm working every single part of my muscle group I can. In my opinion, it is the absolute most versatile chest back support device that is on in the marketplace.
Cool.
There's literally infinity positions.
Yeah. I mean, I like mine a ton, use it all the time. What about your benches? Or sorry, what about your barbells? So your barbells are different from just about everything else out there as well. Can you explain how they're different and maybe who those are specifically designed for too?
Yeah, so I'll start with my standard barbell, which is called the Infinity Bar. This is probably like the 4th or 5th time I've mentioned that I'm kind of like a quasi bodybuilder, power builder, a bodybuilder that likes doing all 3 of the main lifts. So the bar was really built to be kind of like a power building bar. I call it medium curling. It's not too aggressive because, with bodybuilders, we're typically doing higher rep ranges. We're not doing rep ranges of 1 to 5. So like really aggressive knurling isn't going to impact your hands as much because you're going low rep ranges. I'm doing rep ranges anywhere from like 8 to 20. And if I had really aggressive knurling, my hands would be torn apart. So I built a bar that was kind of like off my needs from a mix of bodybuilding and power building. And so there's a medium knurl to it. And also, if you like to do things like CrossFit or whatever, there's definitely better bars because mine is not built for CrossFit. I do not have whip in my bar. It's not necessary for the way that I built it to be able to be trained with. It's primarily for bodybuilders and powerlifting, but it's not a powerlifting specific bar. It's really someone who likes to perform bodybuilding and powerlifting moves because it functions really well for the 2 of those as a good hybrid bar. So that's the Infinity Bar. And then the other bar is my cambered bar, which is a rack mountable bar that functions as, I say, a curl bar and then a seal row bar. I use it for cambered bench press. I use it for cambered squats. Anyone that has difficulty with their shoulders, this is great. It's got a 4-inch camber. So it's like you can actually really use it for that extra 4 or 5 inches of additional range of motion. Unlike some other cambers that are like 20, 30-inch cambers, like you can't use that for bench press. Like you just can't. And I originally was using it and created the bar because I never used my easy bar because the grip was way too close and the grip was way too wide to perform what I felt was an optimal bicep curl. So this one, I just took average size male human being and used those measurements to come up with the 16 inches of space in the middle, and then have the camber start after that 16 inches for like a shoulder width grip barbell curl. But then I found out how great it was for cambered bench, cambered barbell squats. It's amazing for seal rows, dude, because it gives you the extra 4 inches. You can use it underneath your bench or like the Infinity Arm, and you can still use it, and you're getting the bars not hitting the bottom of your bench or the Infinity Arm because you've got that extra 4 inches. And the funny thing is I'm only 45 years old. And so I created this bar for that reason. And then I got some communication from someone like, oh, that's like the McDonald bar. And I was like, what's a McDonald bar? It's a bar from like the 60s that I'd never even heard of before. And it literally, my bar is extremely similar to that. So, yeah. So if anyone's looking it up, check out McDonald bar. It's very, very similar to that. It's not exact, but it's pretty close. But it's kind of interesting that, here I am thinking that I've, got something completely new, and it's something that was used a long time ago. So, I mean, people have been lifting weights for hundreds of years. And like, if we go back far enough, I'm sure we can find something that's similar to a lot of stuff that you're seeing today. It's just like now, instead of it being a specialty bar that was used only by a few different lifters for one specific need, now, us home gym owners, we have multiple different bars. You see in the back, I've got like 3 different bars up hanging on the back of my gym. I'm sure most people have a lot of different bars, and you can find a good purpose for all of these, so long as you have the capital to invest in buying multiple bars.
Right. What about the calf product combination? Can you explain, first of all, what are they, and then why are they different? What's new about them?
Yeah. So ever since I left a commercial gym, which there's plenty of good options for you to train your calves at a commercial gym, whether that's from a standing calf raise machine, a Smith machine, a seated calf raise device, or even like using a leg press to do calf raises, because all of those give you the opportunity to do a full range of motion when you're training your calves. Like even at home, I made my own wooden calf block out of 2x4s, and like I could do calf raises on it, but it's not exactly how you want it to be, because when you're using like a wooden calf block, you got to remember like what you want is you want your whole forefoot to remain stationary on the device, so that way you are getting a full range of motion when performing any of your calf raises. Okay, and you're using a wooden block, your forefoot is coming off the block, and really only a really small portion of your foot is going to remain on the wood portion, or however you decide to make it at home. And that's not ideal to be able to perform calves as optimally as you can. So I wanted a better way to perform calves at home. So I first came up with, it's called the Flex Wedge. And the reason it's called the Flex Wedge rather than an adjustable calf raise device is because it functions as a lot more than just doing quick calf raises. It's used as both front or back foot elevated exercises, like a front elevated lunge or back foot elevated lunge, like deficit Bulgarian split squats. I do elevated barbell squats on them, and I do a lot of landmine squat work. And I can do, like, you can check out my Instagram and see a bunch of videos I'm doing with that device. I do like an inverted squat on the calf wedge or flex wedge, and that is unbelievable, dude. That is such a great exercise. I would tell everyone, please try that out. You will not be sorry that you tried to do that squat exercise. And then I do some reverse landmine squats on the flex wedge. So it's a very versatile piece of equipment that comes with 8 different positions. So you have your flat platform that you can leave it completely flat with the ground. That's great for elevated exercises, for like lunges and stuff, but you can move it down into 6 other angled positions, and they're about 5-degree increments for performing calf raises. Or if you want, instead of it flat when you're performing like a lunge, you can get it down a couple degrees, and then it'll go all the way down in its final position where it's touching the floor. The version that you saw at Home Gym Con had 5 positions to put it in, and we just increased it to 6 because a lot of the feedback that we got was, hey, it'd be nice if there was one more position between the bottom hole and the ground. So we put in one additional position to make that happen. So everyone who's ordered the device is going to get one additional position. Nice. When it comes in. Yeah, so it's nice. And my first version of it did not have a diamond plate platform. It was just a standard steel plate that was powder coated, and it was definitely slippier. With this device, I wonder if slippier is a word. And this device is a diamond plate. So even if everyone wants to check out Garage Gym Life, John Reeves over there did a review of the product, and he was actually doing barefoot calf raises on it, which you can do. I'd say outside of the bottom position where it goes to the floor, that's just too steep. It doesn't matter how. It could be sandpaper and you're going to slip. But every other position, you can use your bare feet and train your calves on it, and you're not going to slip off the device. That's because of the diamond plate. So those were changes that we made. And then the first prototype had no handles on the side. So we added handles to be able to carry it and move it around easier. That is a great piece of equipment for not just performing calf raises, but also elevated work for both quads. And then the other one was the calf cups.
Yep.
A couple reasons for that device is I do see a lot of people saying, like, why don't you just reverse direction? Like, you could put the device on the standard J cup, which you can see over there. Just a standard J cup. Those are actually the calf cups there. I just don't have the let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here. It's not letting me zoom in with being on the podcast, but yeah, sure. You could do them reversing direction or the same direction. The problem is you're going to scrape the crap out of your bar and your rack if you care about that type of thing when performing your calf raises, so you're not falling back. And I know people say, well, why would you fall back doing a calf raise? Well, if you really want to train your calves like you should be, you can't be worried about whether or not you're going to lean forward or backward to perform the device, right? So like you need to be in a position or have something that allows you to push as hard as you can without having to worry about falling back or forward. So the actual device has a lock-in piece that fits in here and slides in. And so now you've got your 9.5 inches of space to be able to move up and down. And you don't got to worry about what happens with that weight, because even if you fall back, you're only moving back like a 1/2 inch and your bar's protected on that device. Now we have some improvements. This is a product that I co-branded with Bulletproof, and we're likely going to have some improvements coming to it down the line. I can't share anything about it yet, but we're going to have some improvements to it to make it even better. So, and the reason why we have that piece lock in and out is so that way it really doesn't become one-dimensional where you're only using it for standing or seated calf raises, or you could even use it for like pin presses, like a bench press, pin press. You could use it for that as well. But it's so that way you can use it as a standard J cup as well. Because, like if someone's looking at something that's one-dimensional, you're gonna have a much smaller number of people that are willing to purchase the product. But now that it's multifunctional and can be used as a standard J cup, that just increases the number of people that would, consider purchasing the product. So the two products go together. And I want to train anyone who trains calves regularly knows that you need something to be able to make it so you don't have to worry about falling back or forward. Because if you're worried about that and you're so concerned about balance on a device, you're not going to be able to train your calves optimally.
Right.
And I care about that. I want only as strong or only look as good as my weakest link on my body. And I don't want to be the dude going to the beach in the shorts and being like, oh, look at those, 12-inch calves. Right. So like that's the purpose behind the devices. And I think that the Flex Wedge is considerably more versatile than people really think, because they're thinking calf raises at first. But there are so many more exercises you can do, and I do on that particular device that you really can't do with any. I mean, it's adjustable across 8 different positions.
Right.
I haven't seen anything out in the marketplace that does that today. So.
No, I haven't either. And I do actually have a Smith machine in here, and I think it'd be a nice combination with the Smith machine too. Yeah.
So you wouldn't need the calf cup because you got a Smith machine.
Right.
Right. So it's replacing that. So yeah, the Flex Wedge would make sense, but you wouldn't need calf cups because you have a Smith machine. But if you don't have a Smith machine, it really replaces that for that specific exercise, right? So yeah.
Cool. Can you elaborate on any of the, like you mentioned Bulletproof, can you elaborate on any of the other partnerships you have going on right now?
Well, right now, the only partnership I have going on is with Bulletproof. We are co-branding the Flex Wedge. Larry actually helped me name the device. So there's a bunch of names we were thinking about and around the purpose of the device. So it wasn't just calf raises. So it didn't want to be the calf wedge. And, it wasn't just used for doing like quad exercises. So it was one of those things where we kind of combined the names together to come up with the Flex Wedge. But right now, those are the two things I'm working on. There are other projects I think that Larry and I will be working on together. Nothing I can really share about now, but I have some other product ideas that, Larry is interested in. And Larry's been great, man. He's been a great asset. It's always good to have somebody else in the community that you can trust and like spitball stuff off of, whether that's just an idea or drawings, and also believes in you. So I know if something was no good, like I'm not worried about Larry telling me the truth, right? He's going to let me know. But also, if something's really good or if he has ways to improve it, he's going to share that as well. So I've really enjoyed the time I've gotten to talk to Larry. We talk almost on a daily basis, at least from a texting perspective. And I think there's going to be some other areas where we can help each other. Like I want to be able to help him out as well. As far as other partnerships goes, Larry is working with Lone Staggers with us as well.
Yeah.
He has like a GHD pad attachment that he's working on for catching to like a bench. And it was just very interesting that it's going to work with Larry's isolator and then also works well with my rack mounted glue hand developer. It's just, sometimes it's interesting just how some things kind of like come together. And I didn't know that he was working with Lone Stag, and now it's something that can be combined with a device I use. So it's nice to see synergy around other companies and us small guys that are trying to make a name for ourselves, where we can all kind of work together and help each other out. At this point in time, I don't have any other partnerships outside of that. I don't know what the future holds for partnerships. I mean, who knows if somebody comes to me with an idea of a product and maybe it's something I want to help bring to fruition, I would do that. But right now, that's pretty much it from a partnership perspective at this point in time.
Got it. Well, you kind of talked about this earlier, but what were your experiences at Home Gym Con? So, I mean, I don't know if like you mentioned you had good experience. Was it what you expected? And I'd also just be curious to hear like why you decided to sign up back right away, which I also greatly appreciate.
Yeah, so I say my first experience for Home Gym Con was I didn't first start selling gym equipment until December of 2022. And then I saw like communication come over on Home Gym Con probably in like the February timeframe of 2023. And I was just a couple months into business, and I was like, and there was no way I was going to be able to get that time off from work on that kind of short of notice. So I unfortunately couldn't make it in the first year. But then I saw communication of Home Gym Con come out. I forgot when it was, but it was just within the first few days. And like you guys had already sold out of so many booths. And I was like, I knew I was going this year. So I was like, I gotta hop on it immediately. So I'm glad I did that. And it was such a great experience. I'll tell you more about the experience in a second. But it was such a great experience that I knew I was coming back for 2000 and was it 25 now? So I can't wait. Because it was so helpful when it comes to the new products that I released. To be honest with you, I didn't know what to expect from the Flex Wedge and the calf cups, but dude, I got a ton of attention on those two products and the Infinity Bench. I was not expecting that how many people wanted to spend time on that stuff. So it was very useful. And then the feedback that we're able to get from people is extremely valuable. As far as those are the reasons why I came back. Now, what do I think were the biggest benefits from coming to Home Gym Con? First and foremost, it was finally getting a chance to meet the people in person I have been talking to for the past year and a half in the home gym community, both from a manufacturer standpoint and like fans that I've never been able to meet in person. So that is me, that's probably the number one. And the chance to network and talk to all these individuals and those that I never got to meet before absolutely was two of the key reasons why I'm coming back and why I love the event. Getting the feedback from individuals on the products that you either have out or are coming out with was also great. I mean, those things alone are more than worth it to come out again in the future. And it's nice to see that we're seeing some new names that are coming. It's great because I think all of us can help each other out, right? Us small guys, we know how hard it is, and I know everyone sees like Rogues and Reps and how big they are, and just understand like they started small like all of us did one day too, right? It's just now everybody knows whose they are. They've been around for 10 years or more, and so they feel like, oh, they're the big boy, and they are the big boy. It's just they started small like all of us did too.
Right.
And we're all planning to get there someday. So I think it helps build a little camaraderie because we all know how hard it is, right? They still remember how hard it is. So it's nice to see that and being able to have a chance to talk to these people that have gone through the same things that you've gone through or are going through. It's just great to try to find ways to kind of mitigate the challenges and issues that we face from growing our business. So I can't wait for it, dude. It was exciting. I don't even want to know the amount of work that you have to put in to get that thing to all happen. I'm glad you're doing it and not me. We'll say that. But I can't wait to be there. I can't wait to next year share a whole bunch of new things that are either already been released or coming out. So I appreciate it. I cannot wait for next year. Except for I drove all the way there and back, which I'll probably do it again, but I'm going to do it in a better way next time. I came down in my minivan and I was a little limited. I couldn't bring I have this awesome deadlift platform that I got from Executive Fit, but I couldn't bring it with me. I didn't want to push the weight too much in my van, and the equipment mattered more than the deadlift platform. But next year, that deadlift platform will make it and have an even better area. So lots of things to learn from it. I will not be driving a minivan. I'll get like a full trailer or something, or rent a truck and drive it down next year. So
got it. Cool. Well, that's cool to hear. We're kind of running out of time, but
yeah.
Lastly, any sort of insights you want to share about the future of your company?
Yeah. So I'm still working on a lot of things. Like as you can see from the products I sell today, a lot of the stuff I've made has been more unique. Most of the stuff I have is you've already got your home gym established and you're finding new ways to upgrade or add pieces to your gym. I would say as time goes on, I will be venturing into some of those things that are more staples. Like I have bumper plates in here that I own the molds on them. I'm just not selling them yet. I'm just not selling you that stuff yet. But at some point in time, what you'll see is me continuing to work on getting more of those things that are staples in home gyms to be able to outfit an entire home gym. You'll see that from me in the future. That will all take time and process. But at the same time, you'll still see me coming out with unique pieces of equipment. I've got a prototype that just came in on Wednesday that I've been playing around with. That's hopefully only a month or two away from releasing some information on it. So that's kind of like what I'm working on today. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I appreciate, your attitude, your vibe. I appreciate like that you're doing it different than just you found your own way. You're doing it different than everybody else. And you have truly brought some really cool stuff to the market that nobody else has. So yeah, thanks for that, and thanks for taking the time to do this. And I'll plug your links into the episode show notes. And but anything else before we go?
No, I appreciate you having me on the show. Please keep sharing all the survey stuff that you get answers on. That's very helpful for all of us in the community to know what people are looking for. Right, it helps provide us some direction. Then just wish me luck on my first Murph tomorrow. I mean, I'm more than ready, dude. I've been barbell squatting forever, so the squat portion of that thing is like a breeze. But this will be my first time actually doing it completely. It's for a great reason. I have veterans in my family, and I'm gonna, dedicate that race to them. And dude, it's just gonna be a good time to support all those that have served for this country. So that's just a plug for our service members, veterans, etc. So I look forward to doing it. Just wish me luck, and hopefully I kick some butt.
Good luck.
Thanks, dude.
All right. Well, we'll chat soon.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.